roommate started dying in October. Not quickly, not all at once. Slowly, like something was eating her from the inside, taking pieces of her every single night while she stood at the window, staring at something in the dark below. Something that stared back. I saw it once, just once. That was enough. My name is Rachel Harmon. I was a sophomore at the University of Oregon in Eugene. Fall semester, 2019. Third floor of Walton Hall Dormitory, room 317. My roommate's name was Diane. We had been randomly assigned to each other in August. She was from Portland, biology major. Quiet, kept to herself. We got along fine, until October. The first thing I noticed was the sleeping, or rather, the not sleeping. I would wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. and Diane would be standing at our window. Not sitting, not looking at her phone. Standing, completely still, forehead pressed against the glass, staring down at the parking lot 3 floors below. The first time I thought she was sleepwalking, I said her name softly. Diane? She didn't respond. I got up and touched her shoulder gently. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were open, wide open, but completely blank, like no one was behind them. She looked through me, not at me, and then turned back to the window. I didn't sleep again that night. It happened every night after that, always between 2 and 3 a.m., always the same window, always the same blank eyes. I started noticing other things changing about her. She stopped eating in the dining hall. She stopped going to class. She stopped talking to her friends. She would sit on her bed during the day, completely still, staring at nothing, for hours at a time. When I spoke to her, she would respond, but her answers were always slightly wrong, like someone who had studied how Diane spoke and was doing their best impression, but didn't quite understand her. One afternoon, I asked her if she was okay. She turned to look at me slowly and said, in a voice that was almost Diane's but not quite, "I am perfectly fine, Rachel. Why would anything be wrong?" She had never called me Rachel before. In 2 months of living together, she had always called me Rach. I told myself she was just stressed. Midterms, homesickness, sleep deprivation. I told myself that for 2 more weeks. The night I stopped telling myself that was the night I looked out the window. It was 2:47 a.m. Diane was at the window again. I'd been watching her for almost 10 minutes, trying to understand what she was looking at, when I finally got up and stood beside her. I looked down at the parking lot. It was mostly empty. A few cars, dim orange streetlights, shadows between the vehicles. And then I saw it. A figure, standing in the far corner of the parking lot, where the streetlights didn't quite reach. Tall, thin, completely still, facing our window. I stared at it for almost 30 seconds, trying to convince myself it was a person, a student coming home late, a security guard on break. And then it moved, not walked, not stepped. It simply shifted, like an image stuttering, and was suddenly 10 feet closer, still facing our window, still completely still. And then it tilted its head upward and looked directly at me. I cannot describe the face, not because I did not see it, but because what I saw should not have been a face. Too long, too pale, eyes that caught the light from 3 floors below and reflected it back, like an animal in headlights. But it was not an animal. It was not anything I have a word for. I grabbed Diane's arm and pulled her away from the window. She resisted, pulling back toward the glass, with a strength that was not Diane's strength. She turned to look at me, and for just 1 second, her eyes were completely black. No white, no iris, solid black from edge to edge. Then she blinked, and they were normal again. And she said, in that almost right voice, "You shouldn't have looked, Rachel." I left the dorm room that night and didn't go back until morning. I called my mother from a hallway bathroom at 3 a.m., told her everything. She told me I was overtired, stressed, imagining things. I asked her what to do if I wasn't imagining things. She didn't have an answer for that. The next morning I went to the resident advisor, asked to be moved to a different room. When she asked why, I told her my roommate was having a mental health crisis. That was the only explanation that made sense to anyone else. The RA went to check on Diane. She came back 15 minutes later, pale, visibly shaken. She did not tell me what she had seen. She just processed my room transfer immediately, no questions asked. I moved into a new room the same day. I thought it was over. It was not over. 3 nights later, in my new room, on a completely different floor of the building, I woke up at 2:47 a.m. Exactly 2:47. The same time I had looked out the window. Something had woken me. Not a sound, not a movement, just the feeling of being watched. I lay completely still in the dark, too afraid to move, too afraid to open my eyes fully. And then, from directly beside my bed, I heard breathing. Slow, deliberate, close enough that I should have felt it on my face. I opened my eyes. The room was empty, but the window, which I had closed and locked before sleeping, was open, and on the windowsill, pressed into the dust, were 2 handprints from the outside on the 5th floor. I left that dormitory the next morning. I finished the semester from my aunt's house 20 miles away. I never went back to Walton Hall. I tried to find out what happened to Diane. No one would tell me directly, but a friend who stayed in the dorm told me that Diane had been taken home by her parents in November, that she had stopped speaking entirely, that she would stand at whatever window was nearest for hours at a time, staring at something no one else could see, and that sometimes, late at night, when her parents checked on her, her eyes would be completely black, and she would smile in a way that Diane had never smiled before. I don't know what was standing in that parking lot. I don't know what it wanted with Diane. I don't know why it followed me to a different floor. But I know one thing. My friend told me one more thing about Diane before I stopped asking questions. She said that Diane's parents had found something written on the wall of her childhood bedroom, in handwriting that was not Diane's, written in the dark, over and over, the same 2 words. She looked. If you ever wake up at 3 a.m. and feel the urge to look out your window, don't, because some things stand in the dark, waiting for someone to notice them. And the moment you look, the moment your eyes meet theirs, they know your name, and they never forget it. And they will follow you to every room, every floor, every house, until they find a way in. sleep well. And if stories like this keep you up at night, you are not alone. Subscribe for more horror stories. Every week, new story, new nightmare. See you in the dark.